This is the Agency Balance Podcast, where we talk about agency life, client relationships, and your own personal balance. Agency Balance is sponsored by SmartAcre. SmartAcre helps you automate, enhance, and accelerate your B2B marketing. Visit GetSmartAcre.com to get your free marketing and sales assessment.
Here are your co-hosts of the Agency Balance Podcast, David Snyder.
And I'm Lisa Zwickel. Jeff, welcome to the Agency Balance Podcast. Thank you so much for joining me today. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to jump right into it. But before we get rolling, can you give a quick introduction to our guests?
Sure. Yeah. So first of all, thanks for having me. We've known each other for a few years now, and the first time we actually had a chance to do this formally. So, So name's Jeff Hill. Been in, believe it or not, started my career as an aerospace engineering major at University of Maryland. So I did some work in that world back in quite some time ago, and actually did some design work and some engineering work. And one day somebody pulled me over and said, "You know what?" Said, "You would probably make a better marketing guy than you would an engineer." And so that's kind of how the transition started, because I could put the verb after the noun, that kind of stuff, and not that many engineers at the time could do that. So spent about 30 years now in product management, product marketing, I'm about to say all forms of marketing, but not really. Haven't really done a lot of PR work, for example, things of that nature. So more product marketing, product management, that kind of stuff. And I'm currently in my third startup in a row. When I say startup, we're talking 10, 20 people kind of startup. So the real kind of startup. Last two we sold successfully, and I've been about a year in where I am now, a company called Tracked. You spell that TRACKD. So Track D or Tracked, however you want to pronounce it, is fine with us, as long as you find us on the web.com. And we're in, again, the cybersecurity space. Like my last few startups been in cybersecurity now, probably about the last 10 years. We're sort of in vulnerability management, which is a very old discipline in cybersecurity, very staid discipline, and we're doing some things to sort of enliven it and hopefully make some real progress, innovation in that space where there hasn't been that much in the past decade or two. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. Yeah.
In a nutshell, yeah. Been around the block. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to have you join us, because, we talk about balance in every sense of the word, and you're always so genuine. You're fun to work with. We test things, we learn, we moved really, really fast when we were doing marketing together for Dark Cubed about a year or so ago. So that's one of the things I wanted to start with is, tell me a little bit about your path and what you've learned along the way to help you instill that balance in everything that you do on a daily basis.
Yeah. So what I found over the years in marketing is it's the same as it was in the wrestling room when I was in high school, or as a coach in wrestling, or in college as an engineering student, or you name it. It's just about hard work. And there are no magic tricks, and if there were any, there are few of them today. So it's a matter of trying things, and I despise cliches, but one I will indulge in here is to fail fast. So we talk about failing fast in the product world, and I guess maybe that's where it kind of comes from. My background in product management. But try something. Don't commit too much to it. Don't become married to any particular concept, and then double down on the things that work. And like you said, there are a lot of articles written. There's a lot of fancy words used and so forth. They all tend to be recycled over time. Like I said, I've been around the block a few times in both cybersecurity and in marketing. But trying things, and then when you fail, give up on them, move on, and do that quickly. And when you're in a startup, especially, and that's my only experience is really in startups. Even I think the largest company I've ever worked for had 200 or 300 people in it, something like that. So you just can't afford to commit too much, and every nickel matters. And maybe that cliche as well, but in small company marketing budgets, that's the case as well. And I remember when we first met, and we talked about, Jeff, what are your objectives? And I told you, leads, that's it. Nothing else matters. We don't want to win awards. We don't care about how many LinkedIn followers we have or how many likes we get on social media. We want leads, and that's what I loved about working with your organization is you guys were you're down in the weeds. Very, very business oriented, results oriented organization, and you tend to dismiss the fluff of marketing, which is, I think, why we get along so well, because always been kind of a straightforward guy. And I think when you talk about transparency, that's what it is, right? It's we need leads. And in a small company, the rubber meets the road really quickly because you only have so much cash, which means you only have so much time, and you have to go out and sell the brushes. And I think sometimes it gets lost in marketing a little bit. When I'm on the road and so forth, I see a lot of people wasting a lot of money on things that I'm not quite sure really are going to help them sell more brushes. So that's kind of my fault. I don't know if I answered your question. I've been kind of rambling on.
Yeah, it answers my question. It's one of the reasons why I think we jived really well in working together is there's often that balance, especially in working with agencies and other startups that I've worked with in the past, where there's that need to move quickly and get things done in tests, but also the fear of, but it also has to be perfect. And it also has to be 100% right.
Yeah, no, it
What
doesn't
are,
work that way. Yeah,
no, it doesn't.
doesn't work that way.
How do you get over that sense of perfection? What have you learned along the way to avoid that?
You peel away all the nonsense. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if the logo is a little bit skewed or the color's a little bit off. It doesn't really matter. You can go around and work on language in an ad, for example, or a piece of content, and it just doesn't matter that much if we change 2 or 3 words. It's about the general message, right? Is the general message consistent? That kind of thing. It doesn't matter that the screenshot isn't as crystal clear as it could be, especially if it's going to cost us another several hours to get it there, right? Those things, I talk about this all the time. It's like, I care about the things that are going to impact whether or not we're selling brushes and if people come to the website. And when you obsess over minute details like that, again, a lot of small companies, for example, get obsessed over logo preservation and identity preservation. And it's good to have, it's good to be consistent, but we're not Nike. We're not Motorola, right? We're not, if the swoosh is off somewhere in a building, that's very different than whether or not our logo may be a little blurry and this or that. So it's those little things you have to peel away. Yes, you want to try to get them right, no doubt about it. But if they're going to cost you more money and more time, right? How it is we want to get that ad out on Monday, whatever it is. And if screwing around with it to make sure it's perfect, it means it doesn't get deployed until the following Monday. That's a week. That's a real impact, right? Those are leads we could have been working, those leads that could have been in-house and so forth. Those are brushes we could have been selling. So that's the thing about small company stuff. Peel back all that nonsense and get to the heart of the matter. We're in a PR company right now, and it's all about backlinks. We want articles, and if somebody publishes an article in the Wall Street Journal and there's no backlink, it doesn't help us. It really doesn't. Maybe that's an exaggeration. It might be nice to have an article in the Wall Street Journal, but generally, it's backlinks you're looking for in PR. You want connections to your website to help ultimately your SEO performance, and that's all we care about. Doesn't matter how many articles we get published. Doesn't matter how many quotes we get. Is our domain authority improving? Or are we starting to get organic inbound? That's what we're targeting. That's the purpose of doing that. Otherwise, there's no reason to do it.
Yeah, that's a good point and a good way to find that focus. You're laser focused on goals, which is hard in a startup when you're also trying to do 1,000,010 things. So how do you find that laser precision?
Well, one of the things to recognize, in marketing, right, is there is absolutely no need for marketing in any company anywhere unless you're trying to sell something, right? If there's no sales, there's no need for marketing. Marketing doesn't necessarily work for sales when in a strict organizational structure capacity, but ultimately our customer is sales, right? We're trying to set sales up for success. And that's why I never understood conflicts between sales and marketing and so forth. It's like the quarterback and the wide receiver kind of thing, right? It's you're striving for the same goal ultimately. I think sometimes, however, marketing folks get lost in their own KPIs, right? And then when you do that, then you start blaming sales, right? Or you start blaming product or whatever it might be. And you just can't do that in a small organization. I know that at Dark Cube, for example, and we have the same kind of ethos here at Tract is, if marketing's not doing well, okay, then we get together with sales. Okay, guys, what's not going right here? I'll get together with you guys, right? Or, we're not performing the way we want to perform. Is it, and sales, same way. Sales is having trouble closing things. Okay, what can we do? How can we help? Is our messaging off? Is it inconsistent with the messaging you guys have? That kind of stuff. So you're working together as a team. Once you start pointing fingers, it's all over. And you just can't afford to do that in a small company. You don't have the time and you don't have the resources to do that. So I think the focus comes from desperation, if you will, right? Or just plain old necessity, right? You have, a startup, again, we're seed funded now. So you have this much funding to get you, which is in funding equals time. And the engineering team needs time, right? To build the product, and the marketing team needs time to build that market and to build a, prospect base and so forth. And the more time we can give ourselves, with that cash, then the higher probability we're going to be successful. So I think the focus is a byproduct of just a small company and startup ethos.
And grounded in reality too.
Right?
I mean,
Yeah.
what I'm hearing you say is that what's the point of trying to make yourself or your marketing department of one look good when the ultimate goal is you have to make money, you have to
Who
be
cares?
focused
That's
on
right. That's right.
revenue.
That's right. Yeah.
But beyond that, beyond doing the work and having that shared goal with others in the organization, how have you, throughout your career, built a relationship with other departments between product, sales? How do
Yeah.
you foster that to find that balance of making sure you have that precision?
You just respect their role, right? And you respect you respect their role in success for the entire organization, and you collectively define success the same way. Right? If sales is out there selling stuff that the product team can't build, right, or promising things they can't, none of us are going to be successful. If the marketing team is out there saying, we just got, I don't know, 100 leads this show, but we're scanning everybody and their brother, right? And then hand them off to sales. We're just wasting their time, right? Our numbers might look good. We might call this an MQL or the hell it is, but we know damn well it's not. And it's funny when we're at shows now, and a lot of what we're doing is live event based. A lot of our lead generation and marketing is live event based at small regional cybersecurity shows. And people come to the booth and we'll have a conversation, and clearly they're not the right person, or they're not somebody that our product is relevant for. And they'll say, "Are you going to scan me?" And we're like, "We don't scan you unless we think we can help you." And people get taken aback. I mean, I think they're sort of pleasantly surprised by that. I said, "You don't need 6 emails from me. Right? You're not the right person, or you're not in the right business, or you don't know anything about what we're doing. We can't help you. We can't help everybody." But so if I were to scan that person and take it back to the sales organization, we don't have a sales organization, let's say we did, then they're going to waste time following up that individual, maybe trying to call them, whatever it is. No reason to do that. And those kind of mistakes are made all the time. And so I think it's just part of it being a small company where there's always, you have 2 people in a room, there's politics, but it's minimal in a small organization, and the dead wood can't hide there, right? But that having been said, you have to be willing to be much more transparent in that organization. It's funny, we have we have stand up, we call it stand up. We actually do sit down, but a call every day at 11 o'clock in the morning with the entire team. It's 9 of us, 10 of us now. And people will say, "Boy, yesterday, what did you do yesterday? What do you plan today?" Blah blah blah. Just a brief. And people say, "Yes, it wasn't very productive." And it's a very honest and open kind of thing. I was working on something and beat my head against the wall, and I said, "I'm going for a walk," and went out for a 2-hour walk and came back and still didn't figure it out. So I'm going to talk to such and such today about it. But very honest, and people aren't trying to fabricate busyness or so forth. In these small organizations, it's not helpful to do that. You're having trouble, you raise your hand. "Hey, I'm struggling here. Not quite sure how to do this," which makes it tough, by the way, to be the only marketing guy, because there's, our CEO is, doesn't have a marketing background, but he's a savvy guy, so you can kick things around with him. But that was one of the things that I loved about working with SmartAcre, because when I hit a wall, or even before I got to the wall, I'd call you guys, and you always had somebody there that had some kind of expertise or experience in that area. And that's why working with an agency, and maybe it's a good segue to start talking about that, is how I strongly recommend startup marketing folks how they plan to work with an agency first before they actually hire anybody for that reason.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that, because in my experience with working with a variety of clients, it goes two ways. It either is a really, really successful relationship, or they don't know how to use an agency. And no matter how much we tell them, you have to trust us, you have to come to us, you have to be transparent, we have to be in the fold, we are your marketing team. Right. So if you have a question, if you loop us in, we're going to be set up for success, versus if you're using us as a hammer of just go do this, then we won't understand the bigger picture. We won't be able to be strategic even when we're being tactical. So what are your thoughts with finding that balance between working with an agency? How do you know how much to share, how much to ask? Because you nailed it. We love working with you.
Yeah. So first of all, again, I'm informed by my history as a product manager, right? We say in product management, the product manager is responsible for what to build. The development team is responsible for how to build it. Okay, so product management, hey, we need this, and this is why we need it, right? The customer, blah, 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 customers, the market. And then the engineering team goes off and decides how to build it. You don't say, I want you guys to go build it this way, right? You say, we have a problem we need solved. What do you think, right? Or how would we do that? It's very collaborative. I view that the same thing with the agency as marketing, from a marketing perspective. We need leads. Okay, we need leads in this area. We need this kind of lead. We need this kind of, we think this is our ICP. It might not be, right? And what do you guys, this is what we're doing now. Okay, this has worked a little bit. This hasn't worked. What do you guys recommend? What do you think we should be doing? And again, you might come up with things that maybe we can't do it for whatever reason. Budgetary limitations might be other reasons why something can't be done. But that's how I view working with the marketing agencies or any other people we're working with. We're hiring you to be part of our team, or inviting you in because you have expertise. Why would we not want to use that, right? I go back to a wrestling anecdote. We had when I was running our youth program, we had a two-time national champion come in. He was actually 5th in the world and almost made our Olympic team. It's a really nice guy. And he would run clinics for us on weekends and so forth, and we'd the guys in, and he'd ask us, well, what would you like me to teach, or what would you like me to show? And we said, well, we're struggling with this area, we're struggling with that. I always like to get your take on, how would you do this, or what kind of strategy would you defer them? You're a world level athlete, Olympic, level athlete. Why am I going to tell you? He goes, it's refreshing because I would go into places and the coach would tell me, I want you to show this way, and this way, and this way, and so forth. And like, why would you bring in somebody with that level of expertise and those credentials, and then tell them what to teach, right? So that never made any kind of sense to me. And as we've talked about, going back to when budget does free up in a startup for marketing, like right now, I'm the marketing person. That's it. I mean, as you know, we don't have the ability to hire you right now. We will as soon as we can. But when you do free up some budget, there's a knee-jerk reaction to say, well, I'm going to go hire somebody. And I never understood that, because you can go to an agency, you can get the equivalent of probably essentially a junior level person, right, initially, and you have access to experts. Like, for example, at Smart Acre, you need an SEO expert, you have them. You need a digital ad expert, you have them. You need a content expert, you have them, right? So, and I don't need a full-time content person. I don't need a full-time SEO person. I don't need a full-time digital ad person, but I need a couple hours here or there. I don't need a full-time design person. I don't need, right? And I can go to you guys and I can pick and choose the expertise I need at any given time. And that's just extraordinarily valuable. Like you said, it's like having a marketing team. They're not a full-time marketing team, but instead of one person that's probably junior, I can get access to 5, 6, or 7 experts for a couple hours here, a couple hours there. Why anybody else would do it differently, I have no idea.
Gives you a lot of opportunity to pivot as things change so quickly.
Right, and you need expertise, right? And again, I'm an SEO expert. I know enough to be dangerous. I'm not a digital ad expert. Same thing. You guys have those people. HubSpot, you need HubSpot expertise. Something done that you guys did a lot of the screwy HubSpot stuff for us. That advanced advanced workflows. What the hell it was that you guys did really well. But I didn't need a full-time HubSpot expert. But I could get Brian in your place for whatever, for a few hours this week or next week for a priority project. So that was really, really something I really miss.
I was listening to an Exit 5 podcast, and they were interviewing a CMO, and they were talking about how you build up your team as you start to gain more funding and traction and everything.
Mhm.
And his thought was one of the biggest mistakes that you can make is when you hire for your strengths, when you know, okay, this is what I think we should do. This is how I've done it in the past. So I'm going to start to build my team because I feel like we need to have a content strategy. That's my background, strong in building that aspect out. And if you just hire for that, as opposed to recognizing your weaknesses and then hiring for your weaknesses, you won't be able to have your gaps filled. You'll just keep doing naturally what you're good at versus having someone challenge you.
Yep.
So how do you focus on that? What are some of your strengths? How do you plan for that, and how do you recognize that?
Yeah, so always been a good writer, right? So content's never been a real issue. Sometimes you have a dearth of ideas or something, someone to help you sort of guide you there. But I'm strong in content generation and development and product marketing, that kind of stuff, right? But not very good in social media at all, right? Not very good with digital ads. Again, enough to be dangerous. On the social media, again, usually, let's face it, it's younger folks that are better at social media. Um, I think there's marginal benefit to all the social media work a lot of people do. I'm not saying I think it's a it can't hurt kind of thing. I don't know that it should be at the core of anybody's objectives to actually generate leads. It just takes either too long or it's too subtle. Especially for a startup, you have to go much faster. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, right? And it doesn't mean it can't be done better. I'm, SEO, I know enough to be dangerous, like I said, but there's a lot of nuances there, and that's changing rapidly. We joked the other day about hopefully you guys are figuring all that out with ChatGPT and how that's going to impact search and organic search. And by the time I have some money to hire you guys will figure that out for us, because I'm not going to try.
I hope so.
Yeah. But yeah, digital ad optimization, just pull it. We talk about pulling the levers. You can't know how to pull all the levers all the time. Again, I work in HubSpot every day, but I'm by no means a HubSpot expert. So these are the things that, those are the examples I tend to use repetitively, but there are others as well. Website updates, landing page design, things of that nature. And there's a good example of that fail fast methodology or that ethos we talked about, where I don't know how many times we'd go through a landing page, it's not working, right? And then you guys would come back, hey, how about this? Maybe this is what's going on. You guys would analyze some of the some of the traffic, some of the metrics, and we draw, but we did it quickly, right? We didn't wait a year, or we didn't wait 6 months. It could be a couple of days. Hey, this isn't working. We're getting all kinds of clicks and not click through. It's not working, right? So, but I think that's why I like it. There's so many facets to any discipline, whether it be cybersecurity, right, or whether it be marketing in our case, and to be expert in all of them is almost impossible. So that's why you want an agency. And I can't afford to hire 5 people in the organization. They'd be bored to death anyway, because they wouldn't have enough work to do full time if they were just a digital ad expert, for example.
Yep, makes sense.
Yeah.
So you touched a little bit on current trends, and I think every good marketer right now is paying attention to AI and what's next, and even seeing some typical tactics that aren't working as well as they have in the past. So you're in the thick of it. You're in this position where you're getting to try a lot of things, test a lot of things. You're also in the midst of raising some funding. So from your perspective, what trends are you seeing? What's working and what's not?
Yeah, so cold outbound looks like it's dead, right? It's just and people will bitch about that, but or challenge that, I should say. They'll debate it, but the people I know that are doing the work said the pandemic killed. People aren't in offices anymore. You can't get them on a phone. Inboxes are just crazy full, and AI's just probably contributing to a lot of this as well. Overload, so you can't get to people that way. Again, we've had success. We've done some digital ad experiments, and we've had some success. Again, we have a sort of a PLG model that we're experimenting with. We think it's got a lot of potential, and so we ran some digital ad experiments to validate that hypothesis. And the preliminary data, although a very small data set, was helpful. So we like digital ads, paid search, a little bit of that. Again, all done in moderation. But right now, our live events, regional event strategy is what we're focusing on as we watch our nickels and dimes, and we get a chance to actually meet people, shake hands, look them in the eye, and have a conversation about what we're doing. And it helps in a couple ways. We always walk out of those small regional events, 100, 150 attendees, or it may be, we have a booth, and we come out of there with 5 to 10, let's say 3 to 8 registrants on our platform, maybe another 5 to 10 interested parties. We'd call them MQLs. So you're looking at between, maybe in a really bad show, 10, a really good show, up to 30 or 40, folks that are now going to be in our database and our nurture list, if not actually on our platform using it. And we can bank on that. And not only that, but we have conversations with people. Is what we're doing important to them? Is it the kind of thing that they eventually will pay for? Is it a problem they really have? Is our approach to the problem something that's resonating? Hard to get that if you're not actually standing and facing somebody and talking with them. So some opportunities to have a cup of coffee or a beer afterward, that kind of, not always, but sometimes that, that's a great way to go about things as well. But so we're having success there because one of the things we can count on it, right? We might have a bad show, but we're not experimenting too much. We're doing it. We do a lot of content work as much as we can to try to build our domain authority and try to help our search results, organic search results. We're in a tough space. We're in the same world as a lot of legacy folks who have been here 10, literally 20 years. And so they've built up that web presence. So it's hard to chip away at their organic search success. But we are doing that, like I said, with a very small PR firm we're working with, and we're getting stories placed in publications and backlinks. But as you know, that's a slow slog up a steep hill. But that's the crux of what we're doing right now. With some LinkedIn presence. I mean, we have a Twitter account. We never post on it. I'm not quite sure anybody's doing much with Twitter now anyway. But those are what we're doing. And there's not that much under the sun. We like to do some webinars. Eventually we will, but really the trick to webinars is getting people there. There's some we've thought about. There's some influencers, social media influencers, if you will, in the cybersecurity space. We're probably going to engage with them, some organizations down the road we'd like to work with, some ISACs, that kind of stuff. Haven't done that yet. Eventually we'll get around to that. But right now it's about building the presence on the platform, getting people to use our solution. And when they use it, we get feedback, and it's really important to us right now. Hey, we really need this, or really need that. We really like this feature, this one here, maybe not so much. That's very helpful to us.
And what trends are you seeing in the funding aspect compared to prior to? What's different right now in the current economic situation that we're in?
Things have tightened up significantly in the last, let's say, 24 months, something like that. I think what happened was during the pandemic, and I think this is not my original thought, folks that I talk with in the investment community, during the pandemic, everybody invested in a wanton, reckless, manner, wantonly reckless manner, and those chickens are now starting to come home to roost. So, funding pre-revenue companies with that much of a vision, or maybe just a vision, not much else, that's definitely out of vogue. And so people are looking more for solid revenue and revenue growth, which I could tell you in the last company, that wasn't what they were interested in so the last company, we had solid revenue growth and they weren't interested in, unfortunately. So we're a bit ahead of our time there. And I think that this, if AI is the buzzword now. So, AI solutions are being funded left and right. Those chickens will probably come home to roost at some point in the future as well. But yeah, it's a much tougher VC world environment than it was, again, like I said, 18, 24 months ago. No doubt about that.
Awesome. I do want to switch gears a little bit, because putting ourselves in the shoes of junior marketers who may be listening to this, thinking you made it. You're working with these startups, 2 of them have been sold. You're in a new role where you're laser focused on your priorities. You're crushing it. Where have you gone? Where have you gone wrong? What are some of the mistakes that Jeff Hill has made throughout your career that you've really learned from?
Well, I've been fired a few times. Maybe been a little too vocal with senior management when you're a little bit younger. I wasn't the best. I wasn't the best diplomat at times. So that's a challenge. When you're younger, you're a lot more volatile. At least I was. Like I said, I've been fired a couple of times, and it's usually because there's a conflict with management about what we should or shouldn't do. Um, I think where it went right, okay, maybe I could focus on that a little more, is I started in the product world, right? So I don't consider myself, even though I'm an engineering background, I don't consider myself technical in the world I operate, but I'm more technical than a lot of the marketing folks and so forth. And this is I guess a bit of a sexist trope, if you will. I don't know what I was saying. I heard this way back in the early '90s. Old boss, he was like, you want to be a little prettier than the smart girls and a little smarter than the pretty girls, right? So you kind of want to be in the middle. So you want to be technical, but you also want to be able to talk to customers, and you want to be able to write and that kind of stuff. And so my skill set tends to fall in that space where, I can get certain technical concepts, and I can understand the marketplace at a high level. So I'm, a mile wide, but maybe just a couple inches deep. And I think advice to sort of the young marketing folks is get as deep technically as you can. Okay. There's always somebody there willing to talk to you about it. I'm not talking about coding. I'm talking about understanding, for example, in cybersecurity, there are buzzwords all over the place and acronyms and so forth, and abbreviations. Learn what they are. Understand what XDR is versus MDR. What's MDR? You don't have to be a penetration tester to understand how penetration testing, how it becomes part of the overall cybersecurity stack, if you will, or cybersecurity strategy to defend an organization. And I tend to see young marketing folks that don't have a lot of interest in it. Right? Don't have a lot of interest. Oh, that's the technical stuff. There's a technical resource here. There's somebody here, as opposed to listening to those conversations when somebody comes up and talks about, well, what does that word mean? Oh, well, that's just and usually there's a relatively simple explanation for what that is. And I do that today. I'm like with Mike, our CEO, a very technical guy. We'll be at the booth and he'll have a conversation. I'll say, well, talk me through what he was asking, right, and how you answered it. I didn't quite get that, and
I love that.
yeah, and of course, I don't know anybody that's going to say, no, I'm not going to take my time with you. I'm not going to talk with you about that. I knew nothing about AI 2 startups ago. We were an AI-based vulnerability management prioritization company, and I worked closely with our AI guy, AI researcher, and we wrote a lot of content together. And in writing that content, I'd talk to him about something, I'd hear him talk, and I would try to sort of write it. He would review and say, you're wrong here, Jeff, you're right here, that kind of stuff. And I remember sometimes I would come up with some metaphors and he would go, wow, that's a great way to put that, or whatever. And we really became close, and I learned a ton about AI. I can't code a deep learning algorithm or something like that, but I could get a sense for how AI worked a little bit, and as the quote unquote marketing guy. And even now, if I'm at the booth, I mean, I could, if there's a certain level of technical question that I'm not able to answer, but usually it's a reference to something someone's using. Well, we're using XYZ, and I've never heard of that. I've never used it. And so is that really a technical issue or just a sort of market issue? And then Michael will say, well, that's an RMM or whatever it is, and here's what they're using it for, how they're using it. And sometimes he's stumped too, never heard of that. So, and it's okay, but I see a lot of people, again, at the booths where all they're concerned about is the swag and things of that nature, or whatever it might be. But as opposed to the actual conversations happening, it's a golden opportunity for marketing people to listen. If they're content writers, understand the product, use it. You have someone give you a demo, ask for an instance. Can I poke around with it? I know sometimes I'll help write documentation for the product. That helps me learn the product, right? And again, this is not, again, we're not down the weeds talking about command line, coding or Python, or it might be something I don't know anything about, but you don't need to be there. But I think that's where in my career, I've been unafraid to ask dumb questions over and over again. That's kind of how I learn things now. With and of course, there's a wealth of information on the internet you can supplement that with. But that's my recommendation. Market. You're not just the fucking marketing guy. Oh, that shouldn't be. Sorry about that. You're a member of the team, and you should be able to understand the product and understand where it sits in the marketplace. And the longer you're there, the more you should know about that product. How it works, what it does, what it doesn't do, that kind of thing. So that'd be my recommendation. Where I've gone wrong, again, like I said, it's just not being diplomatic enough, being a little too passionate at times. And I think sometimes it took me a while to go over this, where you think there's something under the sun that you're not aware of. All the fancy schmancy marketing people, and their words and their titles and so on. There's not that much new under the sun. There's really not. And the principles are pretty basic. So it's hard work. It's hard work.
Well, I will say, when we worked together on Dark Cubed, it was hard for me to admit failure in some of our quick tests that we tried to run and learn from, especially on our LinkedIn ads, when your marketing passion and hypothesis is, this is going to work, this is the one, and then you have an ugly screenshot that's outperforming everything.
Exactly.
Everything.
Exactly. I'll work with you guys, or the digital graphics agency and so forth. And they're like, well, what do you want? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to work. I have no idea. I mean, so we're going to try 10, and then we're going to pick the one that works. And like you said, that's an excellent anecdote. It's, maybe we just talk about it, but because bring in the audience on the inside joke. And we went through slick designed ad after slick designed ad, and we did market analysis, and we actually hired a consultant and everything. And the best performing ad was an ad that was built long before either of us were in Dark Cube. And it was an ugly looking screenshot, just columns and numbers, and that outperformed anything we ever did. So that's the win, right? Not going to win any awards. No one's going to say. It's funny how people review ads all the time. Let's send these ads around and review them. What do you think? I mean, the only reason I would review an ad that you guys built for me or something is it accurate? That's all I'm doing. Is what we're saying accurate? Technically, once that's the case, whether the colors are this, I don't know what's going to work in the marketplace. I don't know if this word's better. This one should be capitalized. I don't know. So we just got to try it out. But that's the only, I know in large organizations, people review ads, and it's like, you guys have no idea what's going to work. You don't. So why waste time? That's another good example of why waste time, money, and energy worrying about something. We just get it out there, see how it does, and then pick the one that works. But yeah. It's so hard to do. I think for some reason people believe that they're, well, anybody could do that. Where's my expertise? Well, no, not anybody can, right? And maybe they can, but you just don't know what's going to work. So why waste time trying to figure it out internally? And again, this goes back to the old product, my product background. You can sit around and decide, is this feature good? Is this feature bad? What do you think? Should we build here? How's your roadmap? Ask the customers, or ask the prospects, or ask the marketplace, right? People you have conversations, we're thinking of this. What do you think? And I guarantee you, they're going to come back and tell you something you hadn't thought of, or a perspective you didn't have. The real problem we're having is this. Oh, we thought this was happens all the time in the product world. And you bring those principles over to marketing and lead generation, I think they translate well.
Yep, completely agree. There's always something to be learned. Knowing your audience, key theme throughout this, even, the conversations that you're having at the shows that you're doing, events that you're doing. One of my favorite questions to ask all the time is just why. I tell my team that, just ask why. If you can't think of a single other question.
Yeah.
Just simply why are we doing this? Just sparks a lot of conversation. Excellent point.
It's funny, when we're at the booth too, one of the things, the discipline, I learned this 100 years ago from some salesperson, was really good. It was the young product manager at I'm at one of my first shows. I'm really excited about my product, and people would walk up and they said, "Tell me about your product." I couldn't wait to tell them about my product. Oh, it does this and everything. This is it. And the sales guy was great. He was quite a soft-spoken guy from the UK, and he was like, "I'm going to suggest something different. When somebody walks up to the booth, you ask them questions first." Okay. And he showed me how to do it. And now I do it. Someone will come and say, "Tell me about your product." I'll say, "Well, what do you do at whatever first?" And look at the name tag or whatever, Mike or Sally or whatever. "What do you do there?" "Well, we do this." And you find out a couple things. Okay. Number one, they may not be anywhere near your ballpark. And there's really no reason to waste your time or their time going through some kind of product pitch. Number one. Number two, they might talk to you about some of the problems they're having, right? They could tell you about some of the relationships they have in the company and how that might impact how. And so you can tune your pitch when you actually go to pitch them to something they've already told you. And I think that's hard to do. It's hard to ask questions, even when someone asks questions first. And I recommend that to anybody. Tell me about yourself, or tell me what you do, and what brings you to the show. Is it just for CP credits, or actually what are you struggling with right now, or what are some of the things you can make it even that open-ended? And then you start a dialogue. And let's face it, people like to talk about themselves, right? It's the best conversationalists you've been around probably are people that are constantly asking you about yourself. Well, in a party or something, and who don't you want to be around? People that do nothing but talk about themselves, right? "Oh my God, that guy wouldn't shut up about it." So at the booth or wherever, the more questions you can ask people, and it's just common sense, but so many people don't do it, right? I learned that lesson a long time ago.
One of the biggest pitfalls I see in B2B marketing in general is forgetting that no matter what, you're still marketing to people. So you have to be mindful of that. It's human beings, understand them. Everyone has something that makes them tick, or a challenge that they're trying to solve. And if you look past that, you're not going to have good marketing, no matter what.
Excellent point. Yeah. Corporations are people.
100%. All right. We've covered a lot. We've been talking for a while now. I do want to go into the Zwickle sizzle. So these are just some questions. Jeff has no idea what I'm about to ask him, for everyone listening. So one thing that you do every week to find balance when you're hitting your head against a wall, trying to write content or whatever else that you're working on, how do you find balance?
I'm an exercise nut. Yeah. I'm a Stairmaster guy. So if I'm starting to fade, it's and that's like I work out in the morning, and that's usually when my mind's working best, for content, that kind of stuff. But if I hit a wall, maybe I'll grab another workout somewhere, maybe I'll take the dog for a walk. But I like to get get the heart pumping if I can. And so that's probably the best way when I hit a wall. Just get away from the computer, start staring at it. I'm writing something and I'm staring at the same goddamn sentence for 15, 20 minutes. It's time to put that down. Either go to something else, go take a walk, grab a workout, whatever it might be. So that's definitely how I would do it.
Love it. I'm a treadmill advocate.
There you go.
I get a lot of my inspiration there. Sometimes it's my best thoughts.
No doubt. Yeah.
I was going to ask what wrestling and marketing have in common, but you actually kind of already answered that. So I'm going to instead ask you what you're a dad. So what do parenting and marketing have in common?
Well, that's a good question. Probably nothing. Yeah, let's see. Because I can tell you, I'm a much better marketer than I am a father, despite my best efforts.
Failing fast has a new meaning when you apply it to children.
Yeah, but the thing is they just don't cooperate much. It's you can't. I don't know. That's an excellent question. I can't think of anything that I can't think of anything that parenting has in common with anything else I've ever done in my life.
Valid answer. For me, it's the little things like I've really refined my value proposition and getting my 2 and 3-year-olds to brush their teeth. It's like I really have to understand my target audience and help them understand the why in ways I never realized before.
I can see that. It's been a while. My kids are 25 and 22. So it's been a while since we had to worry about brushing teeth. At least I hope so.
I hope so too. Do you have a favorite mantra or quote that you live by?
Oh, I do. I can't think of it right now. But I'm constantly repeating the same nonsense. Trying to think of what is I'll be damned, Lise. A mantra that I live by. Like I said, we talked about fail fast in marketing. I mean, that's probably a big one. One of I can't we're gonna end this call and I'm gonna have 6 of them. So I apologize. Yeah, let's go on to the next one. I'm failing the speed round here.
That's okay. You can send them to us. We'll include them in the transcript.
All right.
Okay, last question. What are some of your favorite sources for marketing knowledge or inspiration? Where do you go to get info?
I'm on a cybersecurity marketing society Slack channel. And we get a chance to poke around there. I like to see what people are doing. There are different threads, obviously, or channels, I guess you call them. And so I go there, and again, this is specifically cybersecurity marketing folks. So we'll go there. Some of my former colleagues, people that I've worked with, that will kick ideas around. Hey, this is working for me. Is this working for you? We'll trade numbers on, hey, what are you paying for an MQL now? How are you doing on whatever it might be? Kind of how you doing these or that KPIs. So I would say more it's my peers. Probably I've talked to you guys about it if that made sense and we're working together. I mean, I can do that even if we're not. But yeah, I'd say peers, Slack channels, things like that. Now and then I'll see something on LinkedIn that might be an interesting article. But usually that stuff is just designed to create more buzzwords, but now and then you'll see people with really good examples. There was actually Mike, my boss, sent me something. Somebody did an article about it was a company that built a PLG practice business in cybersecurity, which is very hard to do, and sort of the word on the street is it's really not possible to build a PLG cyber product. And these guys are doing it, how they did it, a lot of details in the article. So now and then I'll pick something like that up if it's not just pablum, and Pat kind of stuff. So those are probably the places I would say, but definitely peers. Peers is a big one.
Agree. Yeah, it's important to have that network of people that you can tap.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, Jeff, we covered a lot. I could keep talking to you. Is there anything else that you want the Agency Balance listeners to know before we wrap things up here?
No, not. I don't think so. Like I said, work hard and good things happen. And that's marketing too. It's marketing too, and be technical. Get as technical as you can. Learn about the product and the marketplace you're in. You will add more value to your organization, and I think your career track will progress more rapidly. So don't just think marketing is about swag at the booth. That's not marketing, right? And
Tracked. Who should be interested? Where can they learn more?
Yeah. So if these are cybersecurity people, if anybody listening is in cybersecurity, specifically vulnerability management and vulnerability remediation, that world, come see us at track.com, trackd.com. And we have a really interesting take on the primary problem in vulnerability management. So I think you'll find
great. Yeah. And where can folks find you?
They can find me on LinkedIn, Jeff Hill. And somebody wants to send me a note, jeff@track.com. Feel free to reach out. I don't know. I can give any advice I give you will be worth every dollar you pay for it. I promise you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. I really appreciate your time. This was a great conversation.
My pleasure, Lise. Anytime.
Subscribe to the podcast at agencybalance.com, Apple, YouTube, or Spotify.